somebody was asking him about Concord failing and Helldivers 2 doing well and what that means for PlayStation going forward. If you don't know this fella, Hiroki Totoki is the Okefenokee. There was a ride when I was a kid at Six Flags called Okefenokee.
The characters in the tales of the Okefenokee ride are animations that tell a fanciful story.
That's why I just can't ever say his name. It's not meant to be disrespectful, but somebody asked him in the press. I want to play what he said because I think it's a great answer, and if it means what I think it means, I think Sony's on the right track when it comes to this stuff. Check this out. Here we go.
So what do you make of that? And you have the huge hit, and also you discontinue certain services. And basically, how are you managing the portfolio in terms of development? Thank you very much for your questions. But currently, we are still in the process of learning. And basically, with regards to new IP, of course, you don't know the result until you actually try it. So for us, for our reflection, probably we need to have a lot of gates, including user testing or internal evaluation, and the timing of such gates, and then we need to bring them forward, and then we should have done those gates much earlier than we did. And also we have a siloed organization, so going beyond the boundaries of those organizations in terms of development and also sales, and I think that could have been much more smoother. And then going forward, in our own titles and then third-party titles, we do have many different windows, and we want to be able to select the right and the optimal window, and so that we can deploy them our own platform without cannibalization, so that we can maximize our performance in terms of title launches. That's all I have.
Ravnos says, so he said nothing. No, he said quite a bit. What he said that I thought was quite great was talking about these gates and talking about bringing the game and the gameplay to gamers and other internal studios, and perhaps even outside of those internal studios, to Sony as a whole sooner, right? So when somebody in the chat says, Eddie T says, everyone in the general public knew Concord was going to flop, I find it hard to believe executives didn't know. Well, again, by the time we all saw what Concord was, they could have done numerous play tests, focus tests. They could have done internal Sony tests. If they really thought, like the development team said they did, that they have the next Star Wars, probably could have gone to Sony Pictures. They probably could have gone to Kevin Feige, who's highly tied in to Sony, even though, of course, he works for Disney, and been like, hey, do we have something here, right? The idea of early access, I think, is really where this is going. The idea of going, look, man, and this is what I've talked about for several years, and all it takes is an awareness of the landscape outside of console. And this is one of the reasons I always say to people, it's like, I get why you can be a console player, and that's all you want. You want to sit on your couch, you want the comfort of that. Not that PC is what a lot of people think it is anymore, but it's the easiest you're ever going to get for the most part. I get that. I respect that. But if you're talking about somebody who wants to be in the industry and somebody who wants to be a designer or an executive or anything in the games industry, you need to be on PC, because PC has been doing this for over 10 years, right? And they look at, and there are these games that if I said them to you right now, a lot of you guys in the chat wouldn't know what they are. There is a Battlefield game made with little Roblox guys that makes tons of money. There are those couple of horror games, I forget their titles, that are like co-op horror games that came out over the last X number of, like, in the last 12 months, that was like, remember what was the Valheim, the Viking game made by 3 people that made millions? It's like, there's plenty of ways in the BattleBit is what it's called, Kyler. Thank you. There are plenty of ways in the PC world to look and go, they knew if that was going to be a hit well before they spent a lot of money. And then they can decide, do they want to spend more money? So this is excellent. This is as much as I beat up on Sony because I think some of their logic is moronic. This is fucking excellent. What an excellent ability to learn from your mistakes. I think it's great. Lockdown Protocol is what it was called, would make billions if it was finished and had faster support, right? Ravnosis Jaffe, what's going on?
Yeah, why in the hell was Sony operating without those stopgap checks to make sure along the way? I mean,
my answer to you would be exactly what I mentioned when I was talking to some executives who are no longer there, which is like, he said to me, because we were talking about Clash of Clans, right? Or what's the game from Supercell? It might be Clash of Clans, but
yeah, that's Clash of Clans.
It was doing incredibly big, and I was playing it. He was playing it. Shuhei was obsessed with it. Shuhei was like putting guilds together within Sony and all this shit. But the executives above these guys had no fucking clue about the mobile market. They knew there was money in the hills, but they weren't like playing the games, knowing what was working, why it was working. So for the longest time, you know, Sony has been this kind of, well, we make box products and we're good at talking to Target and Walmart about end caps, and we're good with doing deals with GameStop. And they just didn't get on the bus that was driving everyone else into the future soon enough. So I think now they will. What I like is that you've got this guy at the top who's actually going, clearly he's coming in and going, what are you guys doing? Because like he said, a lot of our stuff is siloed is what he said, which means they're kind of working in a vacuum. It's like they're working not, and it doesn't mean that everybody has to share everything, but it's like, you guys need to, these are expensive fucking things. You guys need to kind of make sure all the parts are kind of connected to make sure everybody, you know, it doesn't mean everybody has to approve it. You can get too many cooks in the kitchen, but when you're spending $200 million, yeah, you need to have a lot of a lot more oversight, and it sounds like that's what they're doing.